Rams at Seahawks. Seahawks dominated the 49ers last week, and the Rams eked one out in overtime against the Bears. Seahawks at home are favored by 2.5. Y'all's thoughts on this game, keys to this game, trends, whatever y'all got.
Well, this is early being coined the real Super Bowl this week.
Okay.
It'll be the trilogy matchup between Los Angeles and Seattle, and I can give a quick synopsis of the first two matchups. For starters, Seattle's going to look to be the first team ever since the NFL expanded to 32 teams in 2002 to beat two divisional opponents en route to a Super Bowl appearance. Meanwhile, the Rams will look to be the first team since Tom Brady's Bucks in 2020 and the COVID year, to win 3 games on the road en route to a Super Bowl appearance. These two teams, of course, have already played twice, being that they're in the same division. Round 1 was about midway through the season. Both teams were 7-2 going into the game. Darnold on the road at Los Angeles. They were trying to take full control of the division. Darnold threw 4 picks en route to a blowout. You would think if he were to throw 4 picks, but no. Darnold threw 4 picks, and yet Seattle still had a kick at the end of the game from 60-plus to win the game. It speaks massively of how good the Seattle defense is. We'll have more numbers on that here in a second. Stafford had just 130 passing yards, but LA found success rushing the football, running 22 times for 119 yards, 5.4 per carry. The Rams started 2 of their 3 touchdown drives on the Seattle 3-yard line and Seattle 25-yard line due to interceptions. They started 4 drives across midfield in this game and scored just 14 points on those drives, and Seattle kicked 3 red zone field goals. A game where if you looked at one stat, Sam Darnold's 4 picks, you would think would tell the entire story. It did not. This was a game that Seattle's defense and the lack of Seattle's offense's ability to score touchdowns allowed Los Angeles to escape, in my opinion, with a win, even though they were +3 in the turnover margin. In round 2, Stafford got his bread back. He got his moves back, but they ended up losing. Stafford threw for 457 and 3 touchdowns on Thursday Night Football, the game of the year, some are quoting. I would disagree. I have a different game of the year.
Fair.
Seattle Seahawks, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Week 3. Go watch it. It was insane. Nakua had 12 catches for 225 yards and 2 touchdowns in this game. Seattle led early 7-0, and then it was all Rams from there. LA led 30-14 in the fourth quarter when the Seahawks were driving. Darnold throws a pick on the Rams' 3-yard line. Los Angeles picks up 1 first down and goes 3 and out. They punt to Rashid Shaheed. Rashid Shaheed returns it for a touchdown, notably placing the ball just across the goal line and then running back to the sideline, essentially trying to tell you that, hey, job's not finished. We got a lot of work to do. Seattle would score again later, goes for 2 twice, the second 2-point conversion being one of the weirder you've ever seen. A backward pass that is batted at the line, goes into the end zone, and is recovered by Charbonnet as he just walks in and picks it up for a score to tie the game at 30-all. Seattle would then get a 3rd touchdown after the Rams scored on a 58-yard touchdown pass to Nakua in overtime, and then would score a 2-point conversion for their 3rd touchdown and 3rd 2-point conversion combo in overtime, winning 38-37. The Rams became the only team in NFL history to lose a game in overtime after scoring a touchdown in overtime. In those 2 games comparison between these two teams, Sam Darnold had 2 touchdowns through the air and 6 picks. Stafford had 5 touchdowns and 0 picks. The 2 backs, now that there will be no Charbonnet, it's just 1 back in Seattle and 1 in Los Angeles. K9 had 27 carries for 168 and 2 touchdowns. Kyron had 35 for 161 and a score. The 2 best receivers in National Football League in terms of receiving yards, in terms of receptions, were both excellent in both of these 2 games as well. JSN had 17 catches on 25 targets for 201 yards and a touchdown, and Puka Nacua had 19 catches on 24 targets for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. These have been they've had a lot of success offensively, both these teams. In all reality, Darnold's picks is the only reason that Seattle hasn't scored more points in this series, and so this becomes one of the more heavily anticipated third-time rematches that we've ever had, especially in an NFC Championship game. Seattle's no stranger to beating divisional opponents in the NFC Championship game, most notably beating the San Francisco 49ers in the Legion of Boom year. Speaking of the Legion of Boom, this year's defense has been essentially the Legion of Boom. This year, the opponent's points per game is a 2-point difference, which is the largest difference. But this is through 18 games, which includes Seattle's 17 games they played this year, and their 1 playoff game. The Legion of Boom's 16 regular season games and their 2 playoff games en route to the Super Bowl. These were their numbers. They had to the 10th of a yard per game, the same amount of yards given up, which is insane. In terms of sacks, 47 to 49. Opponent passing touchdowns is 18 to 20. And then both teams had 7 wins of 15-plus points en route to a Super Bowl. Now, Seattle's coined their defense this year as the dark side, coined by Leonard Williams. It's a Star Wars reference, of course. And they have, kind of lived up to that tale. They have been a lot of bad boys, which I would rather use a cuss word there because that is the best way to describe them. The way that they hit, the way that they run, the speed that they play with, they give up the least yards per catch or yards after the catch in the National Football League. All their visors, their sick armbands and whatnot. It's a bunch of freaks and dominant hard hitters on this team, and they will go up against the number 1 offense in the National Football League, the Los Angeles Rams. Rams are scoring 30.5 points per game this year, and of course Seattle giving up just 16.6. So strength versus strength, and what is going to be coined as the real Super Bowl between Seattle and Los Angeles this weekend. Any thoughts from y'all too? I got some others. If no.
How many?
Go ahead. No,
I wanted to know how many interceptions do they have? Did you find?
I didn't check.
Okay, I'm just curious. 20. They've got 18 in the regular season this year, and they had 28 in the regular season of 2013. That's incredible. Yeah, not to take away from the comparison. I was just curious. I didn't mean to find a stat to dispute it, but
that's
that
fair.
is a ridiculous number of interceptions from the 2013 team. Go ahead, Jack.
Well, I was going to say how I'm looking at this game, and this game is, as I'm also looking ahead to picking in a couple of minutes, really hard for me to kind of get a read on in the sense of, for me, it's like the Rams is all going to come down for me to Matthew Stafford and the 2 wide receivers. What kind of day can they have? They weren't great in Chicago, but they've had massive performances. They were really good in Carolina, right? And so they're on the road for the 3rd time. What kind of day can they have? Because I don't know if I really trust the run game to go crazy. I don't really know if I trust the Rams defense to shut down the Seahawks. The only person that's going to shut down the Seahawks offense, in my opinion, this is another big key piece, is Sam Darnold. What kind of day does Sam Darnold have? The 6 picks in the 2 matchups really looms large. He was good last week, but he had to do almost nothing last week. I mean, they just kind of had the game in their hands from the jump, right? So it's I feel like the Seahawks are the better team here. The totem pole I'm about to unveil will echo that for the first time. But it's still so freaking hard to trust Sam Darnold to, lead a team in a massive playoff game. And I genuinely hope that he comes out and has a good game and proves everyone wrong, because I think it'd be a really cool moment. But I guess similar to you with your Patriots, I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
I've not really seen Sam Darnold have kind of his moment in the spotlight yet. So I almost feel like I could be stupid for picking Seattle in that sense.
I would love to see that from Darnold, because that'll prove that just because you've always had bad playoff games doesn't mean that you're going to continue having bad playoff games.
Well, to be fair, he's now played in 2 playoff games.
No. Is it just 2? The one last year and the one this
last
year?
year was horrible. And then the one this year, I mean, he graded out well and stuff. He probably had a better performance than Justin Herbert's ever had in the playoffs.
This is true.
But at York, it wasn't some no one's going to remember the Sam Darnold performance against the 49ers in 5 years.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna call Week 18 last year a playoff game. I'm gonna do that to push my narrative.
Well, then you have to call Week 18 this year as a playoff game as well.
Yeah.
But he wasn't great
I'm
in that game
not
either.
actually gonna do that. I'm not gonna twist the narrative like that. But yeah.
Yeah, because, I mean, the time he was with the Jets, obviously the Jets weren't sniffing the playoffs.
Nope.
So his first appearance was last year.
He was a backup with San Francisco when they went to the Super Bowl. Injuries, we talked about this a little bit with Seattle last week leading up to their game. Of course, San Francisco with all their injuries, but it quickly became a moot point in that game. And a lot of people turned off the TV, because it was a blowout and whatnot, and it wasn't worth watching anymore. And then when you turn off the TV, you don't continue watching the game, of course, and so you miss some things. Zach Charbonnet tears his ACL later in that game. He will not play, of course, for the rest of the year and may miss next year as well. And then Charles Cross, which was a huge issue potentially coming in to last week's game. He finally returns after missing 3 games at the end of the regular season. He hurt his foot, is what they're calling it, in the third quarter last week. He said he felt fine, and he said he's felt fine this week, but he has not practiced yet this week. And he is their starting left tackle, of course, Mississippi State legend, got his big contract extension earlier this year. They also don't have a single left tackle who's taken a snap at left tackle for them this year that has practiced this week. Their other 2 backups have also been hurt and missed practice so far this week. So left tackle is a potential huge issue going into this week. You can think of guys like Jared Verse, the last year's Rookie of the Year, or Defensive Rookie of the Year, and Byron Young, their leading sacker the last 2 years in Los Angeles, as potential beast. That's, of course, Sam Darnold's blind side. That's not news you want to hear, and that's not news that's been really publicly shared outside of Seattle circles. So it's something to look at. Cross will probably play, but how limited will he be in that game? Are they going to be forced to throw a tight end over there and chip a ton during the game? Now, Elijah Arroyo, Seattle's second-round pick this past season, did not play last week, but he was a full participant in practice this week. He has had a great rookie year, and the use of their 12 personnel and their 13 personnel in Seattle is really dynamic, especially with A.J. Barner, who, of course, he's been healthy, but in the 2 games against the Rams, A.J. Barner had 14 catches for 119 yards and a touchdown. So that's 7 for 60 and half a touchdown per game. He's been really good in both of the 2 games against the Los Angeles Rams. They will have Elijah Arroyo back, which helps A.J. Barner. That's going to help Sam Darnold as well. And then, of course, Darnold was the big injury concern last week with his oblique injury. He played. He looked good, but he's still been limited at practice this week. He's not fully healthy. So that's something, if he takes a hit, pulls a muscle, wakes up wrong, as we talked about on last week's show, it very well could be an issue. The Rams have no key injuries of note, although Mississippi State legend Emmanuel Forbes is dealing with a shoulder injury, but he's likely to play on Sunday.
That's big.
So we should be seeing teams at full strength for the most part on both sides. Zach Charbonnet, of course, missing, but like Devontae Adams is playing, Puka Nacua is playing. Yeah. That was a huge concern, I felt like, for me, for whoever survived the Rams-Bears game, given the cold weather and everything. Does someone come down with the flu? Does someone hurt something because it's so damn cold?
Yeah, pulled
stuff
muscle
like
or
that.
anything.
Nothing really of note to talk about coming into this week. Byron Young does have like a kind of a hamstring thing, but they're more so resting him than he's missing this week. So full strength teams, which of course is not what we got last week with San Francisco and Seattle. And that's going to make this one even better. The Rams are 7-4 this year on the road. They were 5-4 in the regular season and then won their last 2 games on the road in the playoffs. And then Seattle is 7-2 at home. That includes their one postseason win last week. They've been dynamic on the road throughout Mike McDonald's career and been bad at home with Mike McDonald. But since the year they won the Super Bowl, they haven't lost a game at home in front of fans in the playoffs. Period. The last 13 years. They haven't lost. They have lost 1 game at home, but it was the COVID year. And there were no fans in the building, so it doesn't count. So they have not lost a game at home since they won the Super Bowl, and of course they were dominant at home that year as well. So it is going to be a electric matchup in the NFC Championship game, and we can get into picking it unless y'all got any other thoughts.
No.
Nope.
As we'll see on the pyramid, which is actually just the totem pole this weekend, apparently, spoiler alert, we're going to see it on the totem pole as well. Seattle's the best team in football, and they've been the best team in football for a long time. They've moved within the top 3 a little bit, but for the most part, I've had them as my best team in football for much of the year. The way that they play defense, I think, is really dynamic. A big, part of the argument for picking either of these teams is you're going to just take the 2 games and you're going to say, oh, if you're the Rams, you're saying, oh, we had a 16-point lead in the fourth quarter, we choked. Oh, Sam Darnold threw 4 picks in the first one, we're going to be chilling. But in Seattle's case, I already made it earlier, the first game was a bad luck stat if you just looked at Darnold's 4 interceptions, and they, deserve full credit for making the comeback that they did in the Thursday Night Football game. So I'm going to use that logic. I'm also going to use the fact that they haven't lost a game at home in the playoffs in front of fans since they won the Super Bowl in 13 years.
Yeah.
And I do think that crowd is going to be rocking. I think it's going to be a problem for the Rams and their communication. Having the veteran quarterback helps them a ton in this game. So, if this was Caleb and the Bears, the spread's going to be bigger, and it's probably more likely leaning towards Seattle. And, Rams are being a very popular pick this week as I stall to try and see where the numbers are at there. 40% of the spread money's on the Rams, actually. So more people are favoring towards Seattle. I'm going to favor with them as well. I'm going to pick Seattle. I got Seattle minus 4.5 per my pyramid as well. So give me the Seahawks. Give me them to advance to Super Bowl. And so that I have both the 1 seeds pitting against each other in the Super Bowl for me right now. Yeah.
Boring football. No, I
Could make for a great Super Bowl.
It's 2 great stories.
Yeah, it is.
One thing I didn't note, these 2 teams had the same odds as New England and Denver in terms of preseason odds to win the Super Bowl. The Rams were plus 2,200, just like Denver was, and then Seattle was plus 6,000, just like New England was.
That's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Man, I really wish we'd gotten the Bills, because then we could have the Bills over the Broncos, because then we could have had the cool story of 2 divisional matchups in the conference championships, which I don't know how often we have that happen. But that would have been another really cool story we did not get. I'm going to go Los Angeles, which I really wish that I wasn't, so that we could have a tie going into the Super Bowl. But I'm going to go with Matthew Stafford and those wide receivers, not necessarily to cook, because I know that defense is fantastic, but to be good enough that they're going to be able to score some points and win this game. Because I do think the Rams' defense is also really, really good. That defensive line is good. And so Emmanuel Forbes, maybe a pick 6 from Emmanuel Forbes. I mean, if there's a quarterback he's going to have it against, it might be playoff Sam Darnold.
I would celebrate it.
Yeah. So would you celebrate that as a former Washington Commander legend?
I would, because to me, it actually just makes so much sense that he just gets a pick 6. He maybe will get ran over multiple times in the run game in this game, or get bodied once or twice. But he makes the big play. I mean, that's kind of been his
He's
career.
electric with the ball in his hands.
We shouldn't have drafted him. I wanted Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez was the right pick. That was just a really bad era of Washington football. So, I don't really hate any of the players that didn't really work out.
And also, A.J. Brown is just one of the biggest wide receivers in the NFL, I feel like. You got DK Metcalf, who's huge, but A.J. Brown is a terrible matchup for Emmanuel Forbes.
Yeah, but he wasn't good in other games either.
Yeah, it's because he got smoked by A.J. Brown, so his confidence was hurt.
I mean, I saw a video of him getting ran over in the 49ers game. Or not the 49ers game, against the Bears.
Yeah, but his confidence was hurt.
Well, his confidence better be fixed. That's probably how he hurt his shoulder, is getting bowled over.
No, I think I'll bet on the defense having a good enough game against Sam Darnold. Did you talk about the loss of Zach Charbonnet? I mean, Kenneth Walker is still good. So
Kenneth Walker's better. Kenneth
Walker is better than Zach Charbonnet, but it will be weird
against LA too.
Yeah.
Like I said, 27 carries for 168 and 2 touchdowns. He's had 80 plus 75 plus in both of the games.
Yeah. I don't think. Never say never. I just don't see an avenue where the game comes down and the Rams win and Seattle's going, wow, if we had Zach Charbonnet,
The only way that
the
happens.
ultimate difference.
The only way that
if they get
happens if
stopped on the
Kenneth.
1
Maybe
yard
if it
line.
starts
The
on
only
the
way
1
it
yard
happens
line,
is that, or if Kenneth Walker gets hurt on the first drive.
Well, that is
and
true.
then you're like, well, I wish we
That's
had
the
Zach
avenue.
Charbonnet.
I don't know who's the backup running back now.
I
Because
don't know. off the top
I'm
of my
just
head.
really curious. I'd
look.
love to know before I make my pick.
I'm gonna guess shot in the dark. That Travion guy from A&M that was drafted by Cincinnati.
Trayvon Williams.
Yep, Travion Williams.
I believe is.
That's just the like whenever I think random running back, that's the name that comes to mind.
They don't have one that's healthy.
I'm
on
sure
their
he's still
current
on
depth chart.
Cincinnati. Trayvon
They
Williams
don't
is.
have one that's healthy on the current depth.
Cool.
So
Interesting.
Rashid Shaheed.
Yeah.
Yikes.
I'll make my pick while you do some more research. I'm taking Seattle. It's scary because of Sam Darnold stuff, but I think there's just an avenue where even if Sam Darnold is not very good, Seattle could win this game.
Velus Jones Jr.
Yes. Yeah. So give me Seattle.
And he is a legend of where?
I don't know if he's a legend of anywhere. Where do he play
He's a
college
legend
ball?
of the 16-team Slugs League, as he was like a very high pick by Gideon
Nice.
in year 1 of the 16-team Slugs League.
Are you sure they won't do?
He had a
they-
team named after him.
Maybe they play one of their fullbacks. Robbie Oust
They just hand it
or
off to
Brady Russell.
Hand it off to Austin Barner.
Well, AJ Barner has been
Oh, yeah,
their
AJ.
their tush push guy, so maybe you could run a bunch of tush pushes. You also have Jalen Milroe. Suit him up and
That
have
would be
him
actually
play running
really,
back.
really cool.
Although he has dealt with fumble issues before, but
We'll just tell him 5 points of contact.
yeah,
Because when
12
you're
points of contact.
a quarterback, you don't do that. Like
Agreed.
you don't run like that. So get him on that, and then send him through the machine where it's like the things on each side that you have to like lower your shoulder
Yep.
and run through. Get him on that all week, and get Jalen Milroe ready as running back. I don't know 7 for the week. Because people did jokingly and somewhat sincerely call him like a running back who played quarterback at Alabama because he was also. Emmanuel Forbes is electric with the ball in his hands on defense. Jalen Milroe was the same way
he had
on the
16 rushing touchdowns that last year at Alabama.
ground. Oh,
So-
I know. I won a championship with him in fantasy football.
Well, you're also just a Bama fan, so you would
know
know
that.
that.